What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Go Long Podcast. We brought back number one in your hearts, number one in your programs, Jim Monos, able to trick him into doing another podcast at Go Long to preview these 2024-2025 NFL wild card matchups. You've been all over these, Jim. We've been texting as the season kind of grinds along, but we made it. We're here. Real football. What happens right now matters 100 times more than anything that just happened. Like, I think, and maybe that's a product of living here in Western New York and a product of being in Wisconsin for 5 years before moving back home. But those Packers, these Bills, it feels like everybody just wants to slam that simulate to playoffs, simulate to January button. Like the moment that Patrick Mahomes just pranced off the field at Highmark Stadium, fans were ready to get to this moment right now. You always say it, like just get your win and move on in the regular season. Well, it's here. We'll obviously get into those Bills. They're the 2 seed. They will host the Denver Broncos Sunday at 1 p.m. at Highmark. But we'll definitely get into all the games. First off, what's new? Jim Monos, GM of the Memphis Showboats, of course.
Tyler, this is playoff time, and it's good to be back on. Thanks for having me. This is it, man. I feel like we on the show for every year we talk about it. I was spoiled coming up as a scout with the Philadelphia Eagles in the early 2000s with Donovan McNabb. Then I get, the opportunity to work with the Saints, and we go on our Super Bowl run. So obviously I'm with Drew Brees. But during that run is when I realized, so I go from the Eagles to the Saints, but that's when I realized that, okay, I go from McNabb to Brees, but we had losing years with Brees. Like that first year with Brees, we go to the NFC Championship in '06, but then it was like the battle was real to get back. Like it wasn't that easy to get back. And that's when it hit me. Even when you had the quarterback, it's hard to win. Like I was kind of spoiled just thinking, hey, McNabb, Brees, yeah, you're going to make the playoffs every year. No, we had Brees and I saw the struggle. So, so my point of this is you can't waste years when you have the right quarterback. And I'm looking in these playoffs right now, and you can almost just line them up. You can almost rank them by quarterback and let this thing play out. And we'll touch on this, Tyler. A couple of subjects. I told you before the season, I thought this was Detroit's only last chance to win a Super Bowl. Now that's dramatic, but my point of that was I think this is it for them. As far as I thought the window would close, I just think the NFC is going to get. I told you all those young quarterbacks coming in, so we can touch on Detroit. And I actually do think they can win it, and like they should. Philadelphia, Green Bay, that game fascinating with the injuries. Green Bay. We're going to touch on all this. No, my point of all that. Sorry, I got sidetracked with this quarterback thing. You can't pass up and then look at the AFC. These four quarterbacks are like I know. How do you say if you have one of those quarterbacks, if the Bills lose to Baltimore, and we'll touch on this, how is that a big deal? You lost to Lamar. Like at the end of the day, you lost to. I mean, these are four, and now that's the easy excuse, but these four quarterbacks are all generational Hall of Fame, blah, 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 all the quotes we've heard, but it's real. They're all capable of winning a Super Bowl and won it. So let's go game by game. You can start your thoughts. I want to hear your thoughts on all this. I'm fired up.
And it felt like a good time to reach out to the Buffalo Bills and see if Sean McDermott would be open to sitting down and discussing this seventh playoff appearance in 8 years as head coach when Jim Monos, coincidentally, was part of the regime that hired Sean McDermott. You knew him from the years in Philly that you referenced earlier. But yeah, I just thought it would be a good opportunity to try to get inside of his head a little bit. A year after, of course, I had the three-parter at Go Long, chatting with dozens of people who have been through the building. Many on the record, many off the record, many saying many great things about the coach, many who had a polar opposite experience. So the impetus is okay, like here we go again. This is a team that can win it all. This is a quarterback who, when I said could win the MVP, Sean jumped in and said should win the MVP. He knows what the city wants. He referenced the Super Bowl multiple times. He knows what it would do to all of Buffalo, all of Western New York. It would change this area forever. And I think that more than anything, he knows that these playoff games will come down to split second decisions, late in games. What does Sean McDermott do in that moment? So it was fascinating to kind of just go back and forth. I thought we'd only get about 15 minutes. These NFL coaches are creatures of habit, and they're very busy. They're very regimented. It's hard enough to sit down with a coach in May or June, let alone January on the cusp of a seventh playoff appearance. So I just want to, again, give credit to the Bills, to Sean McDermott for carving out this kind of time, for sitting down, for letting his voice be heard at length. You don't see this often, Jim, in the NFL when something is maybe said on a podcast critically, let alone 20,000 words of some of critiques that are very sharp, very pointed. You bring up a team like the Green Bay Packers, for example. 6 years ago, I write that story at Bleacher Report on Aaron Rodgers, Mike McCarthy, Ted Thompson, how this thing fell apart. It was damning at times. Aaron Rodgers chose to go scorched earth with a buddy of his in the media. And, the relationship with to this day, the Packers have taken a much different approach than the Buffalo Bills PR department, than Sean McDermott. So, look, I don't, maybe your listeners don't even care about any of this, Jim. Like, right? It's kind of getting into the weeds of how the sausage is kind of cooked behind the scenes. But I just think it's rare that a coach would just sit down and talk. Sean, you hired the guy, so you know how he's wired to an extent. And I thought that he was very open, very honest, very emotional at times. If you're on our free list at Go Long, or you just listen to the podcast, it's a really good time to subscribe. $8 a month, $50 for the year. I don't know, it was probably about 6,000 words or so, 7,000 words. You'll get the entire conversation in written form with Sean McDermott. And by the end of it is when he really hit on what it would mean to the city. And I think that that's something that has never changed. Day one, you probably got that sense from him. Look, he's not from Buffalo, but he has kind of become a Buffalonian over all these years. And that's got to mean something. I mean, multiple times he brought up 2017, ending the drought, and what that feeling was like in the locker room. And it's kind of grown and grown and grown. And you draft Josh Allen, you see him develop into a bona fide superstar, just a virtuoso in every conceivable way. This is the year. And I came away from that conversation, Jim, thinking he gets the stakes. Like, he knows that these opportunities can be fleeting. You don't know how often you're going to have the opportunity to have Josh Allen in his prime, playing the way he's playing. The culture is set. It's kind of running on its own at this point. And Sean brought up a conversation he had with Cale Sanderson, Olympian. He's the coach of the Penn State wrestling team. Of course, getting the advice from a wrestling coach. But it was great advice. He told Sean that he became a better head coach when he realized being a head coach isn't all that important. And so I think this year that was what Sean McDermott called a quote unquote enlightening moment, where you're just, what do the players need in this moment, in this game, and try to fill in those gaps, stand in those gaps, give them what they need, and psychologically get the team to a place where they're thinking of the upside, where they believe in the fourth quarter. They believe with a minute to go. You're not terrified of everything that can go wrong. Here we go again. 13 seconds. The way last year ended. The snow globe against the Bengals. The Philly kneel. The Hail Murray. I mean, we're all over the place. But getting a team to that moment where you expect to win, it's a lot easier said than done. But he meticulously broke down how he's trying to do it. So it was fascinating. A hell of a lot more fascinating than I was expecting going into this thing. Thinking it'd be 15 minutes, sitting there for over an hour.
I was thinking about what you were saying about the detail, how their days are structured, coaches structure. And it's right. It's to the minute. It is to the minute. And you dealt with their PR department, obviously, but the coach, every head coach has an administrative assistant, however they, whatever their title is. It's not administrative assistant, but assistant to the head coach. You'll see that title. That person, whether it's male or female, is extremely important to the head coach. They're coordinating with the family, the PR, player schedule. It's like three or four different probably schedules that you're syncing up. So really it does come down to minutes, hours, to do things. So I do respect that you got an hour. I mean, I think that shows, Tyler, that there's some, there was some, like you said, it wasn't the story. You do stories every week. You do them big, not big. You do them because you work, that's your job. And you were reporting what what you found out. And I always, we talked about it. I thought the story was great. And I'm glad that whatever happened. I'm glad it's led to you being able to sit down with the head coach of the Bills. That's professional on both ends.
I couldn't agree more. You put it perfectly. I probably have touched on it at some point on the pod, but for those kind of wondering, like, how in the hell did this happen? The day after I wrote that series, I heard from Sean McDermott. We talked on the phone. He said he'd like to get together at some point during the off season, just sit down, get to know each other. And we did at the NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis. Chatted, I don't even know how long, an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever it was. Barely talked about what I wrote, genuinely got to know each other. And I suppose that's kind of what led to me getting back into the building. And I want to keep the conversation private. It was an off the record deal. But long story short, to cover the NFL, the best we can cover the NFL here at Go Long, you try to talk to as many people as you possibly can, whether that's in the locker room, whether that's by the phone, whether that's in person, covering games, getting to training camps. I do a lot of midweek trips during the season because that's when guys have a little more time to sit down. So he understood it. The Bills understood it. So that's why we've been around. I mean, doing the features on Rasul Douglas, Damar Hamlin, Ray Davis, one-on-one with Brandon Beane, and this one-on-one with Sean McDermott. So that being said, and this is part of the professional aspect of it, Jim, like it doesn't stop us or anybody who covers the team from being critical. I mean, this playoff game Sunday, followed by a potential playoff game the next week against Lamar Jackson, possibly. Like, this is what it's all about. I mean, it all leads to this for Sean McDermott and the Buffalo Bills. And his winning percentage all time is better than Curly Lambeau, Joe Gibbs, Bill Belichick. It's stupid. I mean, him and Matt LaFleur, both, their winning percentage, 66, 67%. Both have struggled in the playoffs. And now you're talking about a coach with an MVP quarterback, with a team that can get to New Orleans, win in New Orleans. How do you think the head coach and really the entire team deal with that kind of pressure? Because in talking to Sean, like, and he started the whole Q&A conversation by making it clear, like, I didn't just go through some metamorphosis. I wasn't one person, story comes out, I'm a new person. But the more we talked, the more he did kind of explain his overall evolution as a coach and things that have happened. I mentioned that Cale Sanderson conversation earlier this year have kind of helped him loosen up and it kind of put the players in charge more. But anyways, yeah, what kind of pressure are the Bills facing right now? I mean, when you were with the Saints, you faced this kind of pressure year in and year out with a Drew Brees, and obviously you were with the Bills for a few seasons. So how do you think they handle it?
It's not pressure when you're in these spots. It's why you're in it. It's just now you just want it so bad because you know how hard it is to get there. So I think it's more that you just want, and you want it for the players. The work that they've put into it. If you're in this business for the right things, that's what you want it for. It's the players. It's why we all have jobs. Their work ethic and talent is why you want them to win. It's why you see coaches hurt after losses. The great coaches hurt for Josh Allen if he loses to Lamar, or spin it, for Lamar if he loses to Josh. What's funny is we could be having this conversation this year, next year, the year after about Lamar versus Josh or Mahomes or Herbert or Burrow. I mean, that's how crazy this is. This could go on and on every year. We're just going to mix and match the quarterbacks in the AFC Championship is how I look at it. Herbert's going to keep knocking on the door. We'll get into that. But no, Pressure wise, no. If you feel pressure, you shouldn't be in it.
And this was a season in which the Bills ate a lot of dead money in the Stephon Diggs
Right.
deal. They moved on from a lot of those vets, the Tre'Davious Whites, the Jordan Poyers. I know Micah Hyde's back, but they flipped things at safety. Mitch Morse, Gabe Davis went younger, had to go younger, had to have known like there could be a period of time where you're breaking in rookie Keon Coleman and second year tight end Dalton Kincaid, but they won a hell of a lot more than they probably expected early on. They sustained it. They had a couple close losses. Here they are. Let's just jump right into these matchups, Jim. Buffalo, Denver, transitioning to this game. Jim's not going to take credit, so I will shower him with all of the flowers, all of the praise, the puppies and the rainbows, what have you, Jim Onis. Late
Sean
February?
Payton, Sean
Well,
Payton
you know
coming,
Sean Payton.
coming to
Late
Orchard
February,
Park.
when we did a podcast, you said
Love,
Bo
love it.
Nix is bound to go to the Denver Broncos. He is everything that Sean Payton wants in a quarterback. So here he is as a rookie in the playoffs.
So I almost feel like Denver has no chance, but of course they have a chance. Everybody has a chance. But like here's why. Of course, I believe in quarterback and defense. Denver's defense is legit real. And we're number one in points per play, which is one of my favorite stats. This defense is no joke. So the Bills are going to have to fight for their points. They're going to have to fight for their yards. I just don't know how a rookie going back to Bo Nix is in the great spot. Now, as great as he is, now I'm gonna talk about him being a rookie coming to Buffalo against in the NFL, we always say the vet, especially the defensive minded veteran coaches, the Tomlins, McDermott's, Belichick when he was in it, they don't lose to rookie
Yeah.
quarterbacks. It's something they just have pride in. And it's not only pride in that, it's actually I mean, they can confuse them. The stats are real on that. So I just think it's obviously the spread says it's 9 points. Obviously, the Bills are heavy favorites. It'd be a long shot for Denver to win. Anything's possible. We know the deal. Fumble, punt, return, some crazy thing. That's the only way Denver wins, in my opinion. Just some turnovers early that you don't see coming. Some fumble that you didn't see coming. Other than that, I think the Bills cruise. They're ready for this. And I think we see Denver, like I said, Bo Nix is next year. It could be real, like more real, where they extend their playoff run. This could be a one and done, though, I think, for Denver.
Yeah, speaking of eating dead money, they ate what's it, 85 million to send Russ Wilson packing, and they spread it out over 2 years. So they'll be able to spend at some point and maybe take that step. The one game I can't get out of my mind with Bo Nix, it was the Chargers Thursday nighter a few weeks back, where I mean they're dominating in the first half, but I think his average air yards was like 3.3, which was the second lowest for any quarterback throughout the entire season at that point. So Jesse Minter and the Chargers kind of figured out how to just shrink that offense. And I mean, Bo Nix has an arm. I mean, you did see it in the Cincinnati game.
Oh,
He
arms
can throw
real.
it deep.
Oh,
It's not
there's no
like this is a
question.
noodle arm
No,
dinking and dunking quarterback. You just have to think that Sean McDermott, as a defensive coach against a rookie quarterback, is going to have the upper edge in this game at home. The crowd behind everything they're doing defensively. But you're right. The metrics do give the Broncos defense a chance. They have a shutdown corner in Surtain that can take away half the field. He's one of the best. The thing is, though, like I know Dan Orlovsky was trying to explain why that's a problem for Buffalo matchup wise and the formations that Buffalo likes to use. I don't. I'm not a film junkie, so he's more qualified to dissect that than me. But just watching this Bills offense, I mean, there wasn't a receiver who had 1,000 yards. I don't think there was a receiver who had 900 yards. 13 guys caught a touchdown pass. Josh Allen is not zeroing in on one guy. And one thing that we probably talked about it because everything comes back to Brett Favre and the Packers, right? But a young Brett Favre had, I think, a Hall of Fame talent in Sterling Sharp. Maybe he gets in this year. And what did he do early in his career? Favre talked about it on this show at Go Long. He'd force feed him the ball. He couldn't read a defense. He's just looking for 84 and he's chucking it to him. Josh Allen wasn't going to that extreme with Stephon Diggs, but he probably does have Diggs in his ear telling him to throw him the damn ball. And Allen is quieter, a little more introverted compared to his contemporaries at the position. He's not going to ball up the fist. I mean, that's why Sean McDermott mentioned in our conversation, I believe, this last offseason, they had to talk about leadership. They wanted him to be more vocal. I truly believe that this year, and he has. But you remove Diggs, and yes, you're removing production. You're removing a top end talent when he's at his absolute best. But through Coleman and Kincaid and Knox and Shakir and James Cook and all these guys, like he's genuinely seeing the whole field. There's got to be something to that, right, Jim? You're watching these quarterbacks every week. I tell me, is that a convenient spin? And Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott would still prefer the alpha star wide receiver one. But I mean, Favre won those three MVP awards when Sharp, his career's over with a neck injury. Robert Brooks emerges, Antonio Freeman. Hell, who else you got? Derek Mays, Terry Mickens, Don Beebe, Mark Chmura. A little more talent than the Bills have at receiver and tight end, but they spread the ball out, and there's a value to that, which I think can kind of mitigate the concern you have over a corner who can take away half the field.
If your number one receiver is not a distraction, you're fine. Jamar Chase, give me Jamar Chase, give me Sterling Sharp, give me Randy Moss. Give me all those guys all day with Josh Allen. Sounds good to me. Yeah, no such thing. If you're a
They're
distraction,
still going to look for
that's
one. You think when they're
if
able
there's a
to.
distraction, yes. If you're a distraction, that's why you're out of the building. It's not your talent. So yeah, I think that's why Diggs is not here. I don't know that X and O stuff with the. It's easier to get that. No, no. Give me Chase. Give me the number one.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, to your point, it's their offense does look. It is more fun to watch. I think it doesn't. You don't know. I feel like you don't know who and what is coming next, and that's how I always felt with the Saints. I told you that when you get all these guys involved, that's when you know you're clicking, and that's scary to defend.
Hmm.
And so that's the Bills are right where they want to be offensively, especially when you see Dorsey getting removed in Cleveland. Um, you can tell why. You hear the moves, why they made the move to Joe Brady. Back when they did. That matters. Personality matters. X and O's. Everybody can X and O. Personality matters. Brady catered to the players, however he wanted to get this thing right, and they got Diggs out of the building. Everybody buys in. This is what you have. The interesting thing for me with the Bills, honestly, is their defense. I think they've come down a little bit. I've looked at their stats compared to the previous years. They're not where they were as far as the top five type defense in some of the in points per play. Some of the stats I look at, yards per play, which they have been the previous couple years. That might be something to pay attention to as we move forward. But I still say, how do you play? Like, it's hard to sit there and think you're going to win this game with stopping Lamar, stopping Mahomes. I don't know how you're going to. I still feel like everybody's going to have to outscore each other but we'll get to that. But with the Bills, I do think their defense isn't as dominant as it's been in these previous playoff years. But I think the offense might be better.
Grade A analysis there. Their third down defense has been not good. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but
I
maybe you
could tell
do.
you. Yeah, I can
Yeah, I
pull
feel
it
like
up quick
third
for
down,
you.
they're having trouble getting off the field. And it does kind of bear repeating that in the playoffs, again, this probably won't be a problem against a Bo Nix, against a rookie that you can have your way with. But the last four playoff defeats, Mahomes three times, Burrow the one time at home in the snow. The Bills have the Bills defense has had 32 non-kneel down drives. They've surrendered 16 touchdowns, 8 field goals, forced only 6 punts, created only one turnover, and have allowed 3.52 points per drive. So you're going to have to get past Lamar, Mahomes. I agree. Like you gotta just outscore and try to rattle off as many possessions as you can. They have manufactured some big plays as the season kind of grinded along. They they can get it downfield. to score in 4 or 5 plays versus 10, 11 plays. I think that's key. But you got to at least get a few stops. I mean, the team that can get a few, think about Kansas City in that AFC Championship game in Baltimore. I mean, their defense made Lamar Jackson look average to below average in an MVP season. So I think the defense still kind of matters. Call me a hopeless romantic, Jim. I do think you got to get some stops.
So it went from 18th a year ago. They were 18th in third down conversions, but they're 29th this year. That is, I mean, 29th is 29. That's bottom barrel. I mean, that's not, they can't be happy with that. They have dropped in points per play. They're 11th this year. They were 8th last year. That's not, I was looking at, that's not a significant drop. You're still 11th. I mean, and that's why I said, Tyler, they're going to be playing. These teams are built to play against each other for the next 4 years. Like they really are.
Hmm.
I feel like we're just going to mix and match these guys. They're going to know each other. And Burrow's going to get back in the mix next year. And like I said, Herbert's knocking on the door. But the Bills are, as long as they have Josh Allen, they're always going to be good on defense. And that's the recipe. Quarterback defense. That means you have a chance to win the Super Bowl every year.
Give me a score.
This week, Buffalo, Denver, 27-14. The back door could be open for a Denver cover. Never easy. It's a lot of points against a good, it's a lot of points for the Bills to cover against a good defense like Denver. So when I say the back door is open, that's why I think that, Denver can maybe sneak a touchdown to cover. I just think the Bills control this game.
Yeah, and also remember where the Bills were in the playoffs last year. They were in an all-out sprint, maxing out every week, guys going down just to get in. They get more guys hurt against Pittsburgh. So you go into that Chiefs game with AJ Klein off the couch at linebacker. Like, yeah, the defense has struggled, but they're not. It wasn't this just all-out sprint to the finish line. They're playing.
It's a good point.
Third stringers against Joe Milton in a meaningless game, so they should be rested. And you would think that kind of helps you look better in this wild card versus even the last one against Pittsburgh. I'm with you. I think the Bills win. Let's go 30-21. What is the
Right on the
spread?
line. 9. You just nailed the
It's
line.
9. Well, there you go.
Today it
All
opened
right.
at 8.5.
And again, make sure you check out the Q&A with Sean McDermott. Thank you to everybody who has kind of found their way back to Go Long. Subscribed. Greatly appreciate it. Always fueled by you. You won't hear one ad, one sponsor, none of that on the podcast, at the site. So very grateful. Ravens, Steelers. Is this game even worth discussing? The Steelers are basically a carcass of a football team right now.
Agreed. I don't think it's worth discussing. It would honestly, if it would go down, Lamar would have a tough time coming back. Like, how I feel about Lamar. I need to see, like last year, that was garbage, that effort in the playoffs. I didn't like it, how they came out against kids. To go down 14-0 is unacceptable. So I think he needs to set the tone. Don't let this team, because we know Steeler games. There is always a chance. And we know Tomlin knows Lamar and he knows Baltimore. So it's going to be nasty. As soon as we start seeing the fumbled punts and the sack, Lamar kicks the ball off his knee somehow and Tomlin recovers it. But my point. Don't let this game be a Steeler ugly game. They can't score. They can't throw the ball down. Like they just throw jump balls. Come on. Take care of business. Baltimore should take care. I don't see this being no, I do not want Russell advancing. No more Steelers. Get a quarterback. Omar Khan, you fooled everybody before the season on this 2 quarterback garbage. No, you don't have one.
Oh, I'm just shaking my head because that was the strong take that I felt really good about in the offseason. You get what you pay for a quarterback. Like Justin Fields
We talked
is
about it.
worth the
Yeah.
trade compensation of a Sam Howell and a Desmond Ritter, and nobody wants him. Despite the national media's greatest efforts, there was no market for Justin Fields, and Russ Wilson was shipped away unceremoniously for a reason. And then they played Cincinnati. They lit them up. I took the bait for 1 week. I said, "Oh man, if they can play that Steeler football and Cam Hayward tips the ball at the line of scrimmage and
Right.
they get a turnover on special teams and something fluky happens that only the Steelers benefit from, maybe Russ can give you just enough at quarterback. But regretfully, I should have never have offered that take, that belief that this team could actually step into the ring with a Buffalo, with a KC, because the truth shall set you free. That this is a bad offense. Russ Wilson should not be a starting quarterback. George Pickens, the drama, it just takes new twists and turns every week, and then he had the dropped passes. But you know what's worse than anything? I mean, I don't know what the record is with and without TJ Watt, but he's technically there playing. The last 3 weeks he's been shut out, and he only has two solo tackles. He's playing on a bad ankle right now. He's not himself. So if TJ Watt's not himself, Russell Wilson is making rookie mistakes like trying to gain one extra yard and stay in bounds when you should get out of bounds against Cincinnati late. And Pickens is so volatile. Bad recipe. You know, Tomlin, he has had success against Lamar before getting shellacked a few weeks ago. Maybe that gives you a glimmer of hope, but I think the Ravens win in a blowout.
That Zay Flowers thing is that hurts Baltimore for sure. And it is a lot of points. I think it's 10. I can't, I know I sit there and say it's Baltimore just needs to win this game and get to the
Yeah.
next one. Like it is a rival. They know each other, so it's not going to be easy. I'm not going to sit there, but there's no excuses to lose to Pittsburgh. I just, there's just you can't lose the game.
Right. If you're Baltimore, it is kind of an annoying game, right? You
That's a
you're so
that's a good.
familiar with this team. It's
I
like,
like
ugh,
that.
like them
Yeah,
again. You know, it's like they'll win, but it might be really inconvenient, and you might get a guy or two hurt because the Steelers are going to throw everything at you with Mike Tomlin. But yeah,
you always
if
knew
you're
it
an
was a.
objective football observer, consumer, you want Josh Allen versus Lamar Jackson right here in Orchard Park, round two.
I like how you said that about annoying. I always think about basketball, like when there's always that one guy you knew you were better than, but it's like, he's gonna make me work for my points tonight. Like I know I'm gonna get my points, but I gotta work for my points. Like that's how Baltimore probably looks at Pittsburgh. Like, yeah, all right, we're gonna win this game, but we gotta show up. Like we know this team is gonna be it's gonna be real.
Yeah, you know, it's that, you're right. In pickup basketball, it's that kid. He's got, a Michael Kidd Gilchrist jump shot, can't shoot worth a lick, hardly can dribble. Offensively, he's not giving you anything in that pickup game, but defensively, he's a gnat. He's hand checking, he's riding your hip, he's swatting your hands, and he's just a fly that you're just trying to shoo away. Like that's the upside for the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. They're the
We
kid in pickup with the short shorts and probably bringing a headband to the pickup game at Archbold Gymnasium at Syracuse on a Saturday morning. Probably got a headband, probably a couple wristbands. Taking it a little too serious. Like Pittsburgh's going to take this one a little too serious. When they know their place, they should just lose and go home. But
what if we
they'll be
spin
annoying.
it? If we want to compliment the Steelers a little bit because they are tough, we could call them the Dennis Rodman of the playoffs. Like if you want to compliment them and say, look, they're just specifically going to do one thing. They're going to make you earn everything. Like
Yeah.
that just because they do have TJ Watt. They have the Mahomes of the defense. So I can't disagree. But I do like the I just picture Mike Tomlin if he heard that his team is the annoying guy with bad shorts and goggles at the
Goggles. I
gym.
forgot the
Like,
goggles.
well,
Yes.
maybe also I threw the goggles in.
Probably, he probably brought his homework to the rec center, doing some math problems in between pickup games when they lose and they get the court again. Oh my gosh, the Steelers. So disappointing. Okay, Texans, Chargers. Ugh. Man, the Texans are another one of those teams. CJ Stroud. It's been brutal. Their
So
offense has been brutal.
get Lou Riddick and everybody that was chest pumping that they are the ones that told everybody don't take Bryce Young, take CJ first, take CJ first. Frank Reich left the world, can't ever coach again because he needed Stroud. Guess what? You could see why there was a debate. Let's just leave it at that. I mean, the gap between those two, I certainly, when you watch them, you still see the physical skill set with Stroud, but his decision making this year was horrible. His accuracy was horrible. Like as hard as we were on Bryce Young, we need to be that hard on Stroud this year. He misses players. He misses open targets. That's what made him special his rookie year. He was throwing darts at players. All and they lost Dell. That hurts. I mean, you've covered these receivers in Houston. Like I almost forgot Houston made the playoffs, to be honest with you. They've become almost irrelevant this year as far as we don't take them seriously now.
Yeah.
But that being said, hey, they're going to come out. It's professional. They're going to show up. This is big time, playoffs. So I expect the spread is 3. The Chargers, good defense. It's time for Herbert. We keep saying he's knocking on the door. They need him to start cracking open that door. Like it's time now. So I guess my point is this is a Chargers win for me. That's not going to come as some great, that's kind of the obvious take in this game. But I'm sorry, I don't see how you could sit there and watch Houston and feel good about saying they can win this game.
If
Huge
they're going to
knock
win
on Herbert.
playoff games, right? If they're going to win playoff games, Houston, they're going to have to shorten the game, pound away with Joe Mixon, have CJ Stroud throw the ball 21 times and win with Will Anderson Jr., Daniil Hunter screaming off the edge. I mean, they
They're
do
not
have
good
a
up
good
front.
defense,
Yeah, but they're not good up front offensively, Houston. And the
right?
Chargers do have a defense. And that's, so I think that would be my case for the Chargers as well.
I'm just trying to
Yeah.
see how now Houston is at home. They
Yeah,
they
no,
they
you're right.
blasted Cleveland in the playoffs last year. I think Cleveland was a favorite in that game too. Um, Derek Stingley's good. I don't know. It just seems like an antiquated formula that they're going to have to win with that we never saw coming. Hey, guilty as charged. C.J. Stroud looked so damn good as a rookie. You've got an emerging Nico Collins. Now, granted, he had the injury. He was gone for whatever it was, a month. Tank Dell gone at the end of the year. Diggs tears his ACL, but that's football. Like you're going to have less than ideal circumstances. Like many people, thought Stroud would be an elevator and ascend into that upper echelon of quarterbacks in the AFC. He just never did. I don't know if it's part Bobby Slowick. I mean, Bobby Slow. The Jets are interested in him right now still. It seems like it's more of a Stroud thing than a coaching thing or a supporting cast thing, which is a shock to me.
I
Bob
thought it
tried to
was
tell us with the S2.
so that is funny because I think about that S2 a lot because the history of those guys, it shows they don't succeed. And that was the big talk for rookie year. It just goes back to Tyler, honestly, just give guys, just don't evaluate, don't anoint quarterbacks after their rookie year and don't throw them away after their rookie year. Just let's get to the second year before we are too harsh on rookie quarterbacks. I think that's all my point is. That's all because I still think the talent's there for Stroud. I mean, it's still that you can't fake what he did last year.
And Bryce Young
Bryce
was
Young looks
feeling it by
good.
the end of the year, man. He was
He did a
fun
Steph
to
Curry.
watch.
He did a Steph Curry turnaround. I mean,
He did.
that's just you feel after what we witnessed a year ago to see him have that type of fun playing football. Now now next year, hey, let's see what now he's got to take that next step. Now it can't be fun. That's a fun turnaround. Now you got to win and get in the playoffs. But
I do. I'm kind of chuckling because I'm thinking of S2, like the company. And after Bob had the story at Go Long, I mean, they went into full damage control. They never wanted these scores being public. Now they sell this to teams as we're the bust finder. Like use our test, pay for our test, and you'll know who will bust out. But the second they're in the news, it's oh my God, I can't believe this happened and this was said and this was so. If CJ Stroud is not a good quarterback in the minds of the general public, I'm just imagining S2 like doubling back with these teams. See, we told you.
that
when
would be
when they
that's
were
I know.
they spent the whole year trying to dismiss us and Bob and all of that. But anyways, hey, Bob is just he's an old school reporter. He's in the Hall of Fame for a reason. He's one of the best of the best. This is something that NFL teams use, and he's bringing it to light to readers to consume. So we're very fortunate to have him. Okay, prediction time. You're going Chargers.
Yeah, I see. No, I don't. But definitely a good game. Chargers aren't good enough, I don't think, to run away with anything yet.
Hmm. Yeah, I really do want to say Texans just out of pure
I,
stubbornness for hyping this team up as much as I did, right? But that would be selfish. I can't do that. The Chargers are going to win this game, so I'll pick the Chargers in a close one.
I mean, so far we're giving the people the favorites, and
Yeah,
but
pathetic.
that's how this season has played. If you follow football or gamble, it has been a heavy, heavy, just chalky, as we say, favorites
Yeah.
win no matter what. So far, I feel good about those picks.
Let's get to the NFC. Oh, meanwhile, right, the Chiefs are just kind of mending their wounds and enjoying a 2 week bye, basically. Uh,
Well,
we'll
I'm
have time to
guilty of.
talk about them.
We'll talk about them. Yeah,
Let's get to the NFC, where Detroit locked up the number one seed, pounded the Vikings at Ford Field. Ooh, we'll get to the Vikings. Let's start with Philly, Green Bay. They'll play on an actual football field, not whatever that was in Brazil. Isn't this great? The NFL just putting games all over the world. And I like it. We got Peter Varnum. He's listening right now. He's our international correspondent. He's helped me see the light and see the upside in these international games. All I ask is for a playable surface. Let's have a field where guys aren't falling down every play. Is that too much to ask for? These two teams really didn't have that in Brazil. They'll face off again. Uh, let's start here. Nick Sirianni. He sat Saquon Barkley. They didn't go for the record. What's your take on that?
good. Didn't even know Eric Dickerson had it until the Saquon was talking about it. I totally forgot Dickerson had it. So no big deal to me. I get it. It's an unbelievable accomplishment, but get healthy and make that run. You're going to be happier. You're going to be happier, like right when you sit out. Because here's the deal, Tyler. When you commit to it, you have to. The whole team has to commit to it. It's a whole
Yeah,
effort to get that, and then it just becomes hard. Everything becomes hard, and it becomes too much about you, and it's just a lot. I think they 100% did the right thing.
totally agree. Wrote it as such. It's if he stubs
Yeah,
his
he
toe, if
does.
he turns an
Yeah,
ankle, if he gets a hangnail, it wasn't worth it. He is reason number one, two, three, four, five that you've got a shot to get the Super Bowl. He's averaging close to 4 yards before contact. He is just synchronized with Jeff Stoutland's offensive line um, at a
you
master's
just
degree level.
okay. Not and there you go. Take it more than Saquon. If you do play him, then you are playing the offensive lineman that you wanted to rest. It all plays out. Those guys need the rest too. So like you said, because there's no better offensive line. I point out to everybody, don't forget Saquon, Derrick Henry, and is it Aaron Jones? No, Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, Saquon. They combined for 20. Their teams were 20 and 31 last year when they had these running backs that can't be stopped and they can't stop winning. These teams moved on from them because they were losing. These running backs are outstanding. Derrick Henry is certainly outstanding, but we didn't even know about him last year without Lamar. Like they need Jalen Hurts is the reason the Eagles are good. It's not Saquon. And when I say it's Hurts, I mean he's the key to that system. Saquon obviously is the huge part, but Saquon was on the Giants. That team's a disaster. So combine those talents with the quarterback. Now you're talking.
But Jalen Hurts also had one 300-yard game this season. Button heads with AJ Brown. AJ Brown
Hey,
pissed off after that win
play
against
Pickett,
Carolina.
play Pickett.
Very
See what this
unhappy.
play Pickett play Pickett this week against Green Bay, and let's see what the spread is with the greatest Saquon Barkley, with the greatest player ever, and let's see if you beat Green Bay with Pickett.
You
Or
want
would
Kenny
you take
Pickett. You want
or,
Kenny Pickett this week.
or would you take Hurts and play the backup running and keep the backup running back if you had to pick
Hmm?
Hurts or Saquon against Green Bay? You had to pick one to play, one to sit. But just remember, Barkley's the NFL MVP or Offensive Player of the Year, greatest talent ever. Who would you pick, Hurts or Saquon?
For
Got
the
it.
sake of stubbornness, I want Kenny P, baby.
There you
Give me
go.
Kenny Pickett. Gonna prove the Steelers wrong. So they're being coy about Hurts' concussion right now, in all seriousness.
That's
I would
true.
think
That
it's
that
enough time,
seems.
but
Yeah, you would think.
all right, we talk about the Packers a lot with Bob McGinn on the Ty and Bob pod, but I do want your perspective because, all right, Green Bay, more physical. more violent.
They're
You
so
heard from
good.
Sean Ryan
They're
a
so
month or
good.
so ago. Like this is a team that can finally win the back alley brawl. But they've been winning the back alley brawl against not elite teams, to put it mildly. Maybe the best team they beat, like Seattle. And they kind of caught these teams at opportune times, like the Rams without Cup and Nakua, the Dolphins when that ship was sinking. So they're 1-5 in the NFC North, 0-4 against the Lions and Vikings. That style of play when you're just handing the ball off, it's great. Josh Jacobs is having this extraordinary
He's
year, but
amazing.
you're also paying Jordan Love 55 million a year to hand the ball off. Like you got to let him throw. And this isn't even a knock on Love. This is a Matt LaFleur problem because when he does let him throw the ball and he unleashes him, they've at least been able to play catch up against the Vikings twice in those games and the line. Like you got to let him throw. I don't know what that balance is because it is good that they can win a different kind of football game that they'd always lose with Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs, but you still need your quarterback to be that dude. So what is that balance? And you're going to play a Philly team that is peaking at the right time.
Yeah, I think the concern is Love. I mean, we've watched him enough where
Easy,
he's sca-
Jim.
he's scary. I told you this before. Next to Anthony Richardson, he's not on that hold your breath level, but he does some hold your breath things that is why LaFleur is probably scared sometimes. You give him too much, you might get bit. And that pick six is staring at you sometimes. I'm telling you, he has gotten away with some crazy throws. A lot of guys do, but he's so physically gifted. There's nothing but upside and still excitement for Love. But no, I don't think he's ready to go to Philly and win this game. By him, I think he would need a dominant run game, the defense to just get Hurts to get Hurts to cough one up.
Well, let's do remember
I like this
they
Green Bay
went they
team.
went
I think
into
they could win the
Dallas
game. No,
and they
I think they
won.
can win this game. I do. I like this Green Bay team.
You think it's got to be a heavy dose of Josh Jacobs still,
I
and you got to
do.
be careful with Love.
That's how I feel about it. Yes, I think if they try to, if I think the Eagles, and to your point, you can't playing catch up. You can't make a living that way. So to your point, come out and throw. Get the point. You throw to score early. You run to win in the fourth.
They're being the youngest team in the league, I think, still kind of helps you. There's that blissful ignorance thing that Matt Hasselbeck was getting into. Yet you also were there last year, so you get the stakes. You get how last year ended at Santa Clara, a bad throw across the field, a missed field goal before that. You gave that game away. You were that close to the NFC Championship game.
Was
I don't know. I kind of want to think about this game a little bit more before
it's
making a
gonna be a good one.
prediction
Yeah, I'm
because
with you.
I do like the style of play that they've been playing with most of this season. The defense is a lot better under Jeff Hafley. Xavier McKinney has 8 interceptions. The pass rush can come at you from different sources. It's not just
Like
one
it.
guy. Edger and Cooper. You know what? It might come down to Edger and Cooper. Here's a linebacker who can pull off the sort of stunts that only the Fred Warners of the world do. Bob mentioned that play again was it Jacksonville, the one that Christian Kirk got hurt on. I mean, he's trailing a receiver down the deep middle, makes a play on the ball. How many guys can do that? Yet he also gives up stuff. They're living. Speaking of living with the ups and the downs of a player, they're living with it with Edger Cooper. He's playing a lot of snaps, so maybe it comes down to him against a Saquon Barkley and this offensive line. Like, can he hold his own in this game? All right. Do you want to make a prediction? I'm going to hold off for now until I talk to Bob.
I still think Philly wins.
Bucks Commanders. Jaden Daniels, you know about facing a rookie quarterback who can run.
I was just gonna
Your
go into that.
story about Jim Johnson before facing Michael Vick in the playoffs is great. Can only imagine what Todd Bowles is thinking into this one. Because not only is Jane Daniels just setting records and a threat to throw deep and to run, and Cliff Kingsbury is this college offense really working in the pros, he's making the spectacular play in the clutch moments. Like when he absolutely needs to make a big play, he just has that in him to rise up. And a lot of rookies don't have that.
He's been just unflappable. Like just his whole style, he just stays even keel. That's how he was in college too. No question. This game I love. Um, Tampa is a hot. These games are they can get just hot, ugly. When you're a Northeast team and you forget that some of the rest of the country's in humidity,
Yeah.
you'll see this. I think this is once again no shock. I like Tampa to win this game because I still don't believe in rookies to get to that next level. But there is no way you count this quarterback out with what he's done this year. Complete wild card. I think this team goes into this game with, hey, they exceeded expectations. Same with Tampa. They Tampa's, but you can see that Washington's going to go in. Hey, we weren't even supposed to be here. Let's see what we do. That's always a scary team to play with a quarterback that is having that type of year. So this game, I can't wait to. This one's going to be a good one. Some of these other games, I will see. This game, I think, is going to be a fun one to watch. And Baker is pure excitement right now. Just with his energy, he always was. It's just nice to see him be able to be a part of a real, like we always talk about, structure matters, coaching matters. There's a reason he was the first pick. Guy can throw the football.
69 passing touchdowns the last 2 years. That's more than anybody in football. The Cleveland Browns remain an abomination.
Mm. You drafted a guy good enough to win with.
I love Baker, love the Bucks, but I think that their
I think
defense
this
has some holes. They've
it
had they
does.
you give Todd Bowles credit because the resourcefulness, he's had a lot of players go down. I feel like that's something that hasn't been discussed enough. Let me just pull it up here quick. I mean,
Tyler, you
I,
make a good point because I looked that up today. Tampa's defense and Washington's defense, it's neither one. They're both kind of very similar. I don't know if either one is, you know what I mean? Like this game is about the turnovers. Every game is turnovers, but Baker, Jaden, they tend to maybe miss a throw or two. If we see that early, that might give an advantage to the other team. If we see one quarterback get hot,
Antoine Winfield, they made him the richest safety in football. He was lost for the year. Jordan Whitehead, Jamal Dean, they were on IR at various points. So the
that's
fact
their
that Bowles
heart.
has been able to kind of patch this thing together
Mm-hmm.
is impressive. I don't know though. Against Jane, this is a different Washington team than they faced in the season opener. I like Washington in this game. I
Like it.
really do.
Well, I'm boring right now. I'm just taking all the favorites. So yeah, I like Tampa.
Rams, Vikings. A 14-win Minnesota Vikings team has to go across the country and play the Rams because we have to reward the division winners, Jim. Don't tell me you're one of those people.
I'm not.
Okay.
Get seat it right.
Oh, of course you're not one of those people. The 7-9 Seahawks took it to your Saints.
Seat it right. Right. I know that I still,
At
oh my
Quest
gosh, that
Field at the time, right? I think that would have been
good
Quest.
memory. Yeah. But we talk, yeah, that's the window part I was talking about. Like that window closes quick. That was that was part of the window where we thought maybe we'd get back. Yeah. This is going to be a wild one too. After that performance by Sammy. Um,
Yeah.
Sammy brought back all the, right. It's now in your head. It's all in everybody's head, including his probably. But I thought he just missed chances early against Detroit. I thought Minnesota had some chances in that game to kind of go back and make it a good game, early. And then when you don't take advantage of some of those, then you can see it slip away. He hasn't, I mean, all year he's been the Sam Darnold, the talented Sam Darnold that we always talked about that needed, the culture and all that, the coaching. But the decision making Sam, the shake your head Sam showed up and wrong time to show up. I'm still just real quick. I still feel good about Minnesota. I don't think the Rams are good enough on defense. Stafford gives you like one Stafford tough, great game every four. So if you
Yeah.
catch that game right now, if the Vikings get that Stafford, hold on. But if you get that Stafford that, if you can get to him and he starts looking his age a little bit that we've seen this year plenty, um, I still think the Vikings win this game. Another favorite for me.
Yeah, the Rams are a strange team because the defense has actually been playing really
Better,
well. Weeks
better.
15, 16, and 17, they've only allowed 2 touchdowns. And you think, well, they didn't play anybody in those games. I'm thinking, I mean, Aaron Rodgers, your boy, you got a Hall of Famer in there who Jim Onis is
Ugh,
convinced. No, I'm just kidding.
I know, but
Kyler Murray was in there. I don't know. But they're playing better. Braden Fisk, Jared Verse, two
they're
good
middle of the
rookies.
yeah. They're
I'm with
middle
you
of the
though.
pack
I
like
think
Washington.
offensively, you've got to be disappointed. Since that Bills game, when Stafford went nuts with Puka Nacua, Cooper Cup, moving the ball at will, scoring at will, who's going to have the ball last kind of a game. Since then, it hasn't been the same. And I don't know. Does Sean McVay have a schematic adjustment, wrinkle, something he's been saving? I feel like in this battle of minds, McVay versus Flores, I'm going Flores. I think that Minnesota. I mean, there's no home field advantage in LA. The Rams don't have fans.
None, no.
They don't. Uh, so the Vikings fans will take over the stadium.
Yeah, the Rams aren't
It's hard
even
to get
good
that
on
Lions game out of
offense.
your mind. It was ugly last night, but the body of work is there for Minnesota. I think that they've got the coach to kind of psychologically get them right to reset, get
I
out there.
love Minnesota in this game. This is the I love Minnesota to win this game. I just think that this the Rams thing. They haven't been. We're just scared if you're gonna get that one out every four Stafford games. That's what you're worried about.
Right. He threw for like 110 yards against the Jets. I mean, you're right. I mean, Stafford is, gosh, he's just frustrating because he can be in the
Oh, he could
conversation with
be
any quarterback in the NFL.
like the Bills game.
I'm with you. I'm going to go Vikings, and I think it's convincing. I think the Vikings
I
win
agree.
this
I the talking with this,
34 to
yeah,
17.
they're
I
the
don't know if
better
it's
team.
close.
They had a scratch at the other last night. Rough game against Detroit. They had chances, slipped away. Don't forget the body of work this year. That's a you don't forget the whole body of work after one game.
And that's the prime time Monday night capper to super wild card weekend, right? We can't say just wild card weekend. It's super wild card.
It's this week in sports in general is awesome. Thursday night we have a Penn State Notre Dame. I don't know if it's a bowl game, a playoff, whatever it is. That's going to be awesome. Penn State Notre Dame. Then you have Ohio State. I mean, it's good football this week.
The Vikings are only favored by a point and a half.
Yeah, it's a
That's easy
magic.
money for our listeners.
Oh,
Listen to
Tyler,
Jim Otis and go
you
along. You're
just
going to
said
make yourself some dough.
you just said easy money on the Vikings. It may be we may have to go throw some money on the Rams. What? No, not because it's you. Because whenever we think something looks, you know how you and I talk like, oh
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
we both like the Vikings in this game. You know how that's going to go. Yeah. After this, I said Russell Wilson. So yeah, the Steelers will beat Lamar because I said the Ravens and Bills. That's yeah, Bo Nix. All the rookies will win. I said rookies can't win. Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, no chance.
You're shitting on
That's
Jordan Love. He's going to throw for 500 yards.
I'm going. Yep. I think well he might do that. He's pretty talented. I'm just counting on three picks
Oh, okay.
with
Okay.
his 500 yards. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Well, thanks, Jim. And thank you to our listeners, to our readers, to our subscribers for hanging out with us right here at Go Long. And also, the Q&A with Sean McDermott is live at the site. Check it out. Subscribe if you haven't. We greatly appreciate all of you joining the community here at Go Long. I'm going to be there, I believe, at Highmark for Bills Broncos on hand. So you can follow us for that at Go Long. What else? Yeah, you know what? Let's tease this week's story. Why not? I've been talking to people with the Washington Commanders to figure out how a squad in the muck that was Dan Snyder's world in a year to flip this thing to get to the playoffs. Always try to get to ground zero and see how these teams are sifting through the rubble to turn this thing around. And Dan Quinn, man, heard a lot about Dan Quinn. I honestly I didn't know much about him as a coach before talking to players and coaches out there, Jim. But we throw around culture builder all the time, and so often it's fluffy and it doesn't really mean anything. It's just kind of this, I don't know, hard to make sense of it. It's real with Washington, and we're seeing it, and we'll try to bring that to life Friday morning for our Friday feature. All right, Jim. We'll catch you next time. Thanks so much, everyone.